Okay, so quick intro to this vocal chain quick tutorial. And we're just gonna have a listen to before and after. This is my chain here that I've been working on. And before we get into it, we can just have a, just a quick look.
Favorisant ainsi leur
So here's our
business.
vocal.
Le racisme, la babienne, xénophobe est
Before.
pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui empoisonne. Le racisme, la babienne, xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui empoisonne. Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme, la babienne, xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors
So
pour
yeah,
Trump.
so this is my first pass in the mix. Quick cleanup. Let's just get into how I went through this real quick. Someone was asking me. We did some templates, and he was wondering about what I do, which plugins I use for vocal chain. So I kind of use a bunch of stuff. It depends. I don't have a strict vocal chain, although I do have a few plugins that come back pretty often. So one of the first things I test out these days. So okay, let's just check out the routing here. So I got my vocal track here, Vox, and then I'll have a parallel, right? So I'll just send this track. I send it post fader, so that means if I drop my fader, I still have something, like it doesn't affect the level I send to the parallel, because I want that parallel to keep the same amount of compression. I don't want to reduce the amount of compression when I bring down my level, because eventually it's just an uncompressed signal if I'm automating and turning something down. So I kind of want to keep the same vocal type sound intact. So that's how I set up my parallel here. And then I take both of these, send it to another bus, Vox. I put this little line here so I can see that it's a bus on my console, and on the software. It helps me determine whether it's a bus or a channel. And then I can automate from this bus here. So that's what's cool, because if I'm automating directly from my if I'm automating these here, it's either I'm moving my my vocals up and down, and then I'm backing off into my parallel. But the problem is when I bring my level down, it gets hyper compressed, because the level here gets like too close to the compressed level, and which sounds like this.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme, la babienne, xénophobe est pas.
Usually I keep it on hard knee, but for this it's smacking a bit too much. So yeah, so that's the basic routing. What's cool about this bus here is oftentimes I'll put some stuff, because I want to process my parallel and my vocals at the same time. I might do some imaging here. Sometimes it depends. Sometimes right now I've got this track set up in stereo, because I'll use this VR plugin that needs to be on a stereo track. Sometimes that means that all this processing here is done in stereo, so that takes a lot more juice. So I'll need to freeze it or print it much faster to liberate some CPU, because see, right now I'm getting pretty hot and I don't really have that much stuff on. So that's what happens when I do stereo. And if it was mono, then I could put my stereo plugs here and do my imaging on this end and only have like 2, 3, 4 plugs here. But the problem with that is I like to put some stuff pre and some stuff post these plugins. So for now, I'm doing it this way, stereo on the audio track. Okay. So
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
So this is our vocal. This is our tune.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme, la babienne, xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump. Tuer le peuple désarmé. Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme, la babienne, xénophobe.
Just bringing up the parallel will, make the vocals work it a little bit more, give it a bit more proximity.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme, la babienne, xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent.
Real quick, I often start with console 1. I mean, this is a plug that I have with the controller here. I mean, for me, I kind of like starting off with it, and I love this Neve.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme, la babienne, xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump. Tuer.
I'm keeping a 30 millisecond attack. The quickest release I can do on this, 100 milliseconds. It's kind of a slow compressor. Well, it's kind of not super slow there. It acts pretty quickly. It does push the gain quite a bit, so I gotta...
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent à leur pot.
Just to make sure I don't get super hot.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe.
So, okay, there's a lot of like... I'm just going to listen to it from this point on and then decide what needs to go next, you know? So right now, so this is a chain I imported from another tune from the album. So what I do is I mix my first tune, take all my settings, drop it on the second, take off from there, and just kind of put stuff in place. And then I still got to go through it all because, you know, it's not, it doesn't fit perfectly. So this was the EQ.
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
Yeah.
Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est pas si mal.
There is a lot of stuff in this, you know, 6 to 1K that's kind of annoying, I find, that I had to clean. So I'll just go for what I hear first, you know. Some people talk about like steps, doing it in steps. For me, there's no steps. It's really what my ear picks out. If I hear that it needs to be compressed a little bit, I do it right away. Then I need to EQ. But I am careful with my the order that I do stuff in, you know.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne.
You know, some of these frequencies are, there's too much of them all the time, so I'll notch them out with an EQ, but I use the dynamic EQ a lot, and I talk a lot about this in other videos, but I'll use this a lot because I don't want to take out those frequencies all the time, and sometimes the vocals will go quiet, and it needs that roundness, and then it'll get thin if I'm using just a solid EQ. So I just want to grab those frequencies when they push too much, you know, when they kind of jump out at you. But if it's somewhat balanced the rest of the time, I'm not going to want to get rid of them too much. Yeah, I skipped a step here. One of the first things I'll try to see if it works or not is this VR plugin here. So I use this on a lot of stuff, and I will be making a series on this plugin here, how I use it. It's kind of my #1 go-to right now.
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
So it can be weird off the bat, you know. I've had to learn how to use it because when I use it on certain things, I need to EQ more but I find it really helps me get a sort of different type of dimension around the vocals. It kind of shapes it differently. I see it as like, instead of having vocals plastered in like this like big flat thing in front of me, I have them more like rounded off as like, it looks more like a head, you know, like someone talking to me.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent à leur patron.
And then like just real quick to show you what this does.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent à leur patron. Tuer de peuples désarmés, favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent à leur patron. Tuer.
You know, it's really, really fun plug. I want to put. Yeah, so I'll try it out real quick to see if there's something I can do with it. Most vocals I use it, some it just doesn't do it, some it just doesn't work. So, but I'll usually put this up first and pretty high up in my chain because I want to clean some stuff before it hits it, and then I want to do some processing afterwards because there is reverb in here. There is a verb.
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
And it kind of works with the verb in the sense that when you move stuff around, it backs off in the verb and the verb doesn't move. So, but I'll keep some of it. Like, I don't like processing verb on a track, but this verb is kind of nice. I find it's got nice, it's smooth, it's got nice 3D to it. So, you know, why not? I still, and I can't use it just as a verb on, well, I could, but it's kind of a pain to set up if I want to just use it as an aux send, like these verbs here. All these greens are my verbs. So, yeah, I'll just...
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent à leur...
I'll keep a bit of it. So, you know, that means if I'm compressing a bunch after this, like the verb tail might just jump right back at me. So I'm trying to compress before getting into this so that the reverb acts naturally on a compressed signal. So, you know, this is my line here thinking pre-verb process, post-verb process, then I'll send this to verbs afterwards, you know. and it's going to be verb into verb, but which is kind of cool because I can always turn it off on the plugin if I want to. But I find the fact that a verb's sending to another verb, if they're not too long, they just like complexify the whole harmonic structure of the verb and become smoother, you know, as opposed to having like lines of verb or resonant frequencies happening in the verb. So that's kind of my approach with this VR thing and its integrated reverb. So, okay.
Favorisant ainsi leur
So
business.
this is sort of this dub reggae tune. Let's just, I want to push this. I really want to get a lot of attitude in this tune. So for this vocal, I'm going to put a lot of layers of compression.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump.
I'm not going to do like one compressor that does way too much work, you know. So the H comp I find is super transparent.
Favorisant
And it
ainsi
just pushes something way up front if you want some punch.
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
Which could be cool. Next step is like, I'm still hearing some congestion in the voice a little bit. So let's see what we got here. Okay.
Favorisant.
So, in this, for this, I was comping and just putting a channel drive. So this is just like a drive and some like, console preamp saturation stuff. Too much for this tune right now. So I want this to sound a bit clearer. So I might just turn all this stuff off.
Favorisant.
But I do need an EQ right now. I need to open up some bite because it's kind of dull, right? So
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump. Tu es de...
And yeah, maybe not too much of this, but I will go open like the tippy top of this air here.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est...
Now I'm hearing a lot. I'm gonna go back to this, hearing a lot of like this, like those frequencies that are weird.
Favorisant ainsi leur
They're
business.
kind of annoying. There's too much of them. I'll EQ some of them out, and then I'll keep dynamic EQing out. Let's put the dynamic EQ before, because think about this. Dynamic EQ is the amount of that frequency pushing through it that it's going to duck. So if I put an EQ before it and start taking it out, well, the dynamic EQ is not going to work as much. So I'd rather clean temporarily with the dynamic, and then whatever is left after, I'll take it out permanently if I can't control it with the dynamic. It depends which context, but right now that's how I'm seeing it.
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
So there is something pretty narrow that's here all the time. This like close to 1K.
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
This.
Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump. Tu
So
favoris.
basically it's like I have a singer singing in front of me that's like wrapped in a bunch of like material. So I'm hearing it like this, as opposed to, as if there's a lot, like his head is inside a box or something. And I'm just trying to slowly peel off the layers of things that are covering up the vocals. And whatever's doing that is the whole recording chain, right? If you have a singer in front of you, but then in between the singer and you, there's a microphone, a cable, a preamp, a converter, EQ on the preamp, whatever we put on, and then the computer. So that's what I'm trying to make disappear. I want the whole rig to not exist. I just want the vocal to sit in front of me like it was when the singer was in the room singing in front of me to listen to his vocals.
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
Yeah, so now if I EQ too much from this area, it's going to get too thin. So
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
got something here. We can move a bit of these.
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
So it's like coming back too quickly. I'll just pull out this release. Basically, it's going to take out more.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump. Tu es de peuple désarmé.
See,
Favorisant.
what's happening here is like when he sings, it like drops it, but then it comes back too quickly, and then the frequencies kind of reappear.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe est pas si mal.
It's going to be a bit more aggressive. I had this R comp here. I don't think I'm going to be using it.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babienne xénophobe.
Too much compression. This is like when I want to make something smoother, I'll pull out this Renaissance comp, but I don't really want to do it right now. Imaging, I like to spread things very subtly, slowly. I'm doing this more and more on vocals. I mix a lot of folk, I mix a lot of acoustic music, I mix a lot of world music, I don't do tons of pop, but I love doing pop. It's just not my regular clientele. This is stuff that we do in pop a lot more than we do in folk and world, but I've been hiding a lot of these tricks in like bluegrass and folk and stuff like that, just because it doesn't need to be intense, you know? If you listen to Breathin', the tune Breathin' by Ariana Grande, what's her name? Let's just go check it out real quick. That's one of my tunes in my reference list. If you listen to her vocals, it's super spread out. Like, it's really got a lot of these effects. Now, I'm not allowed to play any of this because I'm gonna get pulled for for copyrights, but let's just check it out real quick. Just so I get the name. Ariana Grande. I think I can play like a second as a critic. So we'll just have a few sec. Yeah. So, you know, sorry man, I can't give you more, but you get the quick idea if you go back and listen to the width, or just go on your own and listen to that tune. It's I'll put it as a link in the comments, in the description, because it's worth listening to. So back to this effect I was talking about. So okay, let's just go pretty hot and see what it does.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babiane xénophobe pas si mal.
So you get super wide. We're tuning what, like +6 on the left, -6 on the right. So it does this pitch thing. Let's bring it down.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babiane xénophobe.
Bring it back, push it up until I hear it, then maybe peel it back a bit and then decide, because it's easy to overdo it with this stuff.
Favorisant ainsi leur
business. You can do with a bunch of stuff. I got one of these by Ozone was giving one away recently. Well, recently, it's been a while, but I got this vocal doubler from Ozone. It was like a free promo, which does the same type of thing. The imaging vocals is really cool.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babiane. Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babiane xénophobe pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour...
Barely doing anything, but it's like just one little step and creating air around the vocals, okay? What do we got next? Let's see what I had up here. Yeah.
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
Sometimes I'll pop in just like one of these EQs here, because even if you're not EQing, this thing has a color.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babiane xénophobe pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour...
It's super subtle, but it just like tightens up the low end a bit, the meat. You know, it just kind of cleans it up a bit, I find. So when I'm finishing something off, oftentimes I'll just go like drop some of these EQs on well, the SSL or the API in the Slate bundle, or if you have any others, like these things are, you know, they've got like the circuits in them have, you know, act on the sound. I think the API's transformer does something to it, just kind of greases up the sound a little bit, makes it a touch more 3D. So maybe it's gonna get too muddy in this case, but...
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babiane xénophobe pas si mal. Ils votent à la...
Yeah, it's subtle, but it helps it pop out a little touch. So I'll do some stuff like that. What do we got? Some more imaging again.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babiane xénophobe pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump. Tuer de peuples désarmés. Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babiane xénophobe pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump.
Let's just say bypass these two imagers.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babiane xénophobe pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui empoisonne leur...
Just by turning them on, you get a little bit more 3D in depth. So that's what I'm looking for.
Favorisant...
Like, one of them doesn't do a huge job. Two of them, and because they go and hit different areas, like this doubler here kind of hits, you know, we've got, it open, like the... stock preset has this, you know, 1 point something K shelf. Where is it? 1.3, just to hype up the sides. And you know, I can open up some low mids a bit more. A bit more like precisely with this thing here, and it's got a different color, so I kind of use that for that. Let's see what we got here. Just yeah. So I'm opening the dynamic EQ once again, and I do it in stages because there's some more frequencies I need to clean up. I hear.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme et la babiane xénophobe pas si mal.
I want to go down here actually, so different areas.
favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme
So,
là-bas.
you know, maybe not with dynamic right now. Maybe I'll go with solid EQ. But dynamic, I can go get some stuff.
Favorisant.
I can go and get some lower stuff right now.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui empoisonne. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme.
The danger with doing this is you can really thin out a vocal. So you really got to be careful. Like this is my first pass on this. I haven't, I've just dropped the presets on the tune, and now I'm starting the mix, and I'm just doing a bit of the vocals first. I will come back and do some touch-ups on all of these a few times.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui empoisonne. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe.
Few resonant frequencies here, so I'll use this guy, this Pro Q to.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal.
This is like my scalpel. This is for doing surgery. Like, I'm just going to go grab these little weird frequencies that need to come out. And it's not going to be too destructive if I do like a Q of 30 or a 40, 36. Because we're not affecting many frequencies. We're really just pulling back like one resonant frequency. And this happens a lot, man. There's a lot of this I do a lot on drums.
Favorisant ainsi
I'm still hearing this.
Favorisant là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui empoisonne. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui empoisonne.
Oftentimes, instead of like doing one and opening the Q, that might get too destructive. I'll do like a few spikes like this to trigger individual frequencies, and then just make sure like one goes down, one goes a bit lower, but it doesn't open.
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
It doesn't open up too much. Okay, what else?
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal.
I'm still
Ils
hearing
votent
some of these frequencies now, but I don't want to take them out completely, so I'll just go and like duck them with this dynamic EQ.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal.
This one's coming out a little too much, kind of annoying me.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui empoisonne. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui empoisonne. Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui empoisonne. Le racisme là-bas bien.
What I would maybe do now is, so I got some imaging, but I might want to hype the sides a little bit. So I do a lot of MS in my chains, so mid-side processing. If you don't know what that is, basically all the info in so the information that goes to your left and your right channel that's identical, that creates a mono signal. So it is your mid. Your mid channel.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme.
All the information that is different from left to right, that creates your stereo image. So we can isolate that in a mid-side plugin and hear what the sides sound like. So this is all the side info. Now I want to go and hype that a little bit.
Favorisant ainsi.
So we can just go and.
Favorisant ainsi.
I'm just gonna push it to hear what's happening.
Favorisant ainsi leur business.
A little bit of bite.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Favorisant ainsi leur business.
You can get kind of like edgy, kind of aggressive, not too much.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui a.
Okay, what do we got? Let's just kill these for now. Okay, so let's hear before and after. So this was our vocal before.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui empoisonne. Le racisme là-bas bien xénophobe est pas si mal. Ils votent alors pour Trump, cet homme qui.
It's just a starting point. And so I'll get back to my tune at this point and then just do what I'm doing here to other things in the tune, you know?
Favorisant ainsi leur
Okay, yeah, now I'll just pull it back in the mix.
Favorisant ainsi leur business. Le racisme, la papienne, xénophobe, pas si mal.
A big part of my vocal and the air around the vocal, and then I'll make another video about this. I won't talk too much about it in this one. It's the C6 bus. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm sending everybody in the band to the C6, to this one bus here. Basically I'm sending any instrument that'll have frequencies that'll interfere with the vocals. So, and what's going to happen here is I have a compressor, a multi-band compressor, and the vocals, you know, it's sidechained to the vocals. So the vocals are sending to this bus, and when the singer sings, it's pushing back on some of those same frequencies in the band. So what it does is it just kind of separates, it just pushes back the band behind the vocals a little bit. So it means I can push my vocal back in the mix a touch more without the mix getting ahead of the vocals, without some frequencies jumping in front of the vocal and masking him. So that's like another imaging trick. Like I said, I'll do another one on that, but yeah, so that's kind of it for vocal chain. I'll kind of approach it that way. So I'm using plugins from all over the place. Cool. Cheers. Thanks for watching.